All right. Now, I apologize for those who went to the other link because we're just performing an intelligence test. So anyone who has currently tuned in, you're the smartest. You win the prize. Okay. Hi, guys. Hey, Vanessa. All right. Today, what we decided to do was, thank you all for, thanks for finding us. Today, you can grab a chair. You don't need to kneel. Andrew likes to kneel, and I just think that's too much. I mean, a simple Dan, I appreciate you would do. You know, you don't need to kneel. And I think the pictures on your wall are a little too much. Okay, so Andrew, today we're doing a special question and answer session.
Yes.
It's an anything goes question and answer session. And Andrew's going to help me out with the questions because I can't read and talk. I can't read without my glasses on. So Andrew, do you see any? Hey, Germany, is it Vanessa Louison? Is that Vanessa? Hey, Vanessa! Hey, Jennifer Joy. What do I think about narcissism? You know, I think narcissism is a big topic these days. And here's what I think about it. I think that the term tends to be thrown around really loosely. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of people will call their bosses or their coworkers a narcissist when all they really are simply self-absorbed. But I'm joking. I have actually a family member, not close family member. I mean, how far away is Eamon right now?
Like, not that close.
Okay, I have a family member in a different country who shall remain nameless because it's David Olmscheid. And he is what I believe he actually says that he's been diagnosed an actual narcissist. I believe that our president is a narcissist in the United States. And I think that if you're actually a clinical narcissist, that's different from somebody who's maybe a little spoiled or self-absorbed, because clinical narcissism is dangerous. You know what I'm right, Andrew? Yeah. Are you checking our questions?
Yes.
He's so on the ball today. And if you know somebody, here's the bottom line when I think about narcissism. Maya Angelou, I was there on, virtually on through the television when she first said that famous, what has become now famous line about.
We got a tip.
Oh, we got a tip!
11.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
From Jupiter.
Oh, Jupiter. Oh, Jupiter. Hey, Jupiter. Thank you. I can pay Andrew today. Woof. Thank you so much. Maya Angelou is I believe, original person who said, when people tell you who they are, believe them. Like when somebody says to you, oh, you got to watch out for me. Like especially if you're dating somebody who says something like, I'm no good for you. I'm a heartbreaker. I'm a bad boy. Believe them. And so I think if somebody tells you, I have been diagnosed a narcissist, I have a little streak of narcissism, I'm, in any way, if they say that, I think that's a really important thing to know about somebody, because it means that you're incapable of really caring about other people around you. And I don't think that that is a creative, constructive, or enjoyable trait. It's not. So I've met very few narcissists who truly just think themselves and they have this weird concept of themselves. But that said, Andrew, if somebody is a narcissist, I think that it's important to, like any other illness, recognize it as an illness and forgive them for that and kind of help them function as best they can and we should try to function with them as best we can, because we all suffer from different forms of the same affliction, except that one's a little different from the one I suffer from. But if someone is truly a narcissist, I don't think they can do anything about it. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of times we will try and teach people lessons. If somebody is a narcissist and wants to focus on themselves, we'll think, oh yeah, well, I'm just not I'm not focused, I'm gonna try to turn it away from them as much as I can. I'm not gonna let them do that, which is just going to aggravate the situation, because the narcissists need it to be focused on them, the attention and the thoughts. And it's not a constructive, productive thing to do. So I think it's difficult to deal with a narcissist because many of us haven't ever taken the time to see how to effectively do it. And if you're dealing with a narcissist, take steps to learn how to effectively manage your time with them and not take it personally, and learn how to be kind to them and manage that relationship, because in the end, it's all about you.
Okay, Jupiter asks, I have a great
Jupiter.
poker face, lol. But should someone ask me about my former bits partner who frankly tried to destroy me? He failed. And they asked me if I recommend her now. How do I say hell no? Lol.
Her former business partner?
Yes.
That's a great question. Okay, if somebody's a former business partner and they really did a number on you and it was not a good experience, and someone asks you, tell me again the exact way she put it, like how, if someone asks you, should I work with them, or what do you think?
Ask me if I recommend her. How do I say hell no?
I believe that if you have I've had that a lot, where we'll work with somebody and I think, oh, geez, you can't recommend them in good conscience because we had a horrible experience. What I have done, and I'm trying to think of the way this might pertain to that, because I have not had fortunately, I have not had a horrible business partner. Okay, if you want to say to the person, don't work with them, the savvy way to put it that I have heard, the way that I think sounds the nicest coming off to the ear, would be what your suggestion would be. Like, you don't have to say whether or not you liked them, whether or not they sabotaged you, if they were a saboteur. But instead, like, let's say that somebody were to say, would you recommend working with Andrew? And Andrew had just finished cleaning out my closet, and took all of my good suits and underwear. Instead of saying that and revealing something which ends up, as you probably know, when we say anything bad about another person, even if it's the truth and we're doing somebody a favor, it tends to reflect on us in some part, sometimes a large part. So I would, instead of saying, I wouldn't work with him, he'll steal your suits, and your dog in the middle of the night, I would simply say what you would recommend. So if your business partner, let's say that you're in if you can tell Andrew what business you're in, that'd be great. But let's say that your business was catering, and they were to say, hey, I know you're busy next Friday, so what do you think about your ex-partner Andrew? Do you think he'd be good for catering this party? And I thought, oh God, no, you wouldn't have any more silver when you were done. I might say something like, I think that Vanessa Lewisan would be a better fit for that, knowing you and knowing your guests.
What Jupiter does is spiritual counseling and executive coaching.
Oh my God, of course you do. Of course you do. That makes total sense. Then I would say something like, if somebody were to ask, because I know that Jupiter knows, you can't, if you say something, you kind of want to do it, right? Because you're doing them a favor by saying, hey, watch out for them, they're dangerous. But if you say to a normal thinking person who asks you, should I work with Andrew in my spiritual counseling or coaching session? If I were to say, I believe that my mother or Vanessa or Crystal would be a better fit, actually. So that is who I, in good faith, would recommend to you. And if they were to press it, and say, well, why? Weren't you partners? Or, what did they do? I would leave it at that, and say something like, I just think knowing you and knowing them, so-and-so would be a better fit. So I would never say, I don't think he would be a good fit. I don't think you would like them. I had a bad experience. I would simply leave it as, well, then what? Well, I would recommend working with XYZ. I think that would be a better fit for you, because that does two different things. Number one, it saves me from having to tarnish my own reputation or image by talking negatively about somebody else. Also, I wouldn't I wouldn't have to say anything, and let's say that I made a mistake or whatever, I wouldn't have to run that risk. But also, people like us more the more we talk positively about other people. So if people see me talking, hey, well, I think Bridget Jones would be an awesome fit for you. She has this, she has that, and I think that you'd really enjoy working with her. I skipped the whole dissing Andrew. So that's good in the obvious sense, you know what I mean? Where it's good that I didn't have to talk negatively about somebody, but it's particularly good in the sense that, psychologically speaking, studies show that people are attracted to and like people who say positive things about other people. And so I'm boosting my personal reputation, and I'm getting out of I can hear myself. I'm doing so many great positive things that are effective by simply leaving them out of it and saying what I would do and skipping that whole thing. Oh, I know what I was thinking. Then if they find out in the end, I can't believe it. Andrew stole all of his silver and his dog, and I won't even get started with what he did with the undergarments. Then people will think, wow, and Dan didn't even say anything. Like he had all of that ammunition that he could have thrown, and he didn't. What a class act. And, somebody who would do that, do you wrong like that, Jupiter, as you probably know, is going to say negative things probably about you. And most reasonable people can look at that and they will know right away who the one to work with would be, just by those simple traits. You know what I mean? So I hope that answered your question. That is what I would say. I would just leave it at what you would tell them to do instead.
Okay. I am a nurse and work one-on-one care of my pets. It's almost always very rude, demanding, bossy, and generally communicating in a passive-aggressive way. Please help me.
Tell that again. Who is she working with? Pets?
I'm a nurse and works in one-on-one care. One of my pets.
Pet peeves, maybe?
I imagine that's like my coworker.
Patients. I bet one of my patients.
Oh yeah.
Okay. One of my patients is demanding and
very rude, demanding, bossy, and generally communicating in a passive-aggressive way.
It's funny that you'd say that. What's her name?
Vanessa.
Vanessa Luisan? Is it Vanessa?
I tried telling my patients kindly I don't wish her to talk to me like that, and hasn't helped.
If that is the Vanessa that I know from Germany, she is so lovely. I mean, she just has no. Should be teaching me lessons in communication. And that said, I bet it's funny. My father just died like a week or two ago. He died on the 27th of December, and Andrew was there. Everybody, yeah, came on. It was quite a lovely way to go, honestly. And one of the things I remembered was my dad. He was an angel. I mean, he was lovely to everybody all the time. But he was a little bit ornery the last few days of his life because he wasn't himself. And I think that that's difficult to remember when it's like that every day. And hold on a second, because we disconnect. Okay. I'm sure you know this better than I do, but I would really try to, first of all, find somebody in that patient's life who knew them before they were sick and get a little background on it. If you can get any type of, how no matter how nasty somebody is, when you really get to know them, the villain, in the Wicked Witch of the West, the Wizard of Oz story, when you read her story, when you get to know somebody, you're like, oh, I understand. Because when you get to know anybody, you really can't help but love them. And I think to save your spirit, the aggravation that it sounds like you're going through, because you know what I'm telling you, I would try and get to know them on a more personal, intimate level, because all that can ever do is open up your heart a little bit and help you be patient with them when they are at their worst. Because for Jorge's mother right now, Jorge's mother is also going through a really, really difficult time. And she says things that, when parents can say certain things towards the end of their life because they're not in their right mind, that can just, cause the kids to burst out into tears because they think, oh my God, how could you, be so hurtful? And then they come to their senses and think that's not my mom. There's something wrong there. And it's just so much more difficult for us to get in that mindset when it's not our mother or our father. Maybe it is your mother or father. But that said, I still, even if you have done that, and you've found out about them and you try to do your best to know about them so that, you can get that understanding, which tends to generate more love, I still would, when they behave the way that they behave, fall back to the rules of assertive communication, which would be, for example, if they were to say something, you can go ahead, if they were to say something hurtful or rude or whatever it may be to you, the things that are right now hurting your spirit, and making you bring this up, I would still address those with that person so that you are getting that out of you. So if somebody, were to say, hey, come here, toots, and slap you on the rear, let's say, I still would take the time to say, Andrew, that is not appropriate during work hours. I mean, after 8, okay? You know what I mean? I would take the time to say things, for example, my name is Dan. I just wanted to remind you of that. If someone called you a name, so-and-so, I don't allow myself. You could use bottom line statements. I don't allow myself to be talked to that way. Even if they keep going, and keep doing it, you standing up for yourself sends yourself a message. You know what I mean? So like right now, a part of you probably feels, because we are so multidimensional. I mean, most of us, but a part of you feels like, hey, Vanessa, or is this Vanessa?
Yes.
So part of,
No, wait.
I think it is. I'm just going to go with that. Part of it, there's a Vanessa in you saying, hey, I know that you're a kind, wonderful nurse, but what about me? I am a person too, and I have some rights, and I deserve to be treated well. And she's saying that to you, which is getting you frustrated. So for her sake, if you say, Vanessa, I got you covered, you say it, you get it out, that makes a big difference because what's in you is coming out of you. So get it out in a positive way. Construct the way that follow the rules. I'm going to address your behavior, not you, because you are not the same as your behavior. And I'm going to end it there, say what I need to say to make sure that Vanessa knows I'm supporting her. And then I would move right along. And if you got to know the person, even if it's just a little bit more every day, and loving thoughts, I think that it sounds like you're the type of person who is going to, when it's all over, be a better person for it and be grateful for the experience because there's a much more difficult one coming right behind him. And I think you know that. So use this as a preparation round because it just gets harder. That's what my cousin Amy Davies, who was the manager at Macy's, we talked about this, right? Where she said, I said, do you have any life lessons? She's like a VP at Macy's, and she lived next to Eva Longoria. And she did not let me dig through Eva Longoria's garbage, and I'm still a little bit upset about that. But she did give me the gift of this chunk of wisdom, where she said, I have a great piece of advice for you that someone gave to me. A lot of people sit around waiting for life or relationships or something to get easier. And so they kind of are like treading water until something gets easier, and people pass them by then in life because life gets harder all the time, every day. It's just that people who pay attention learn skills to deal with it as it gets harder and manage it and say, okay, I can do this. And I think that's what that relationship is actually, is actually helping you do. It's helping you strengthen and grow your spiritual, communication, and attitudinal muscles that you're going to need because the next patient is really going to need you. And you'll be ready.
They say, Nell places sorry for your loss.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
C4Cs says, oh, Dan, I'm so sorry about your dad. I experienced that also.
Thank you. You did? Who is that?
C4C.
Thank you. And by the way, I can't remember why I threw that in there. Oh, because my dad, I talk about my family as, all the time. If you watch, that's basically who my friends are, my family. So I'll mention him, I'm sure. And I just wanted you all to know, because I had an Airbnb. I rent Airbnb rooms. And the day that my father died, I had new guests check in. And I didn't tell them because I thought that would just be so strange to come to somebody's house and be like, hey, I gotta go, my dad died, and I thought, they don't need to know that. And so by the time they left, we were all friends, and they were like, you should have told us that, and they were like, I felt bad. Like, should I feel bad not telling? So since we are friends, I'm going to just tell you the first time I've seen you since it happened. So now, if I, ever get all choked up, it's probably because Andrew's saying something mean. But in terms of communication, I wanted to throw this out there because I was waiting for a time to do it. And I'll have to throw it out later. What's the next question, Andrew?
They said, thank you so much. By the way, so much gossip at the hospital.
So much gossip?
Yeah.
Hospitals, right. Is that this hospital my dad was at? Which is this, who's he?
No.
Okay.
That's another.
Because, hospitals are one of my best audiences. I do a lot of keynote presentations and training sessions for hospitals and clinics because there's that environment lends itself to negativity and gossip and backstabbing and rudeness, because what we were just talking about, you're taking in all of this energy, and a lot of people stuff a lot, where they think I'm being professional, and so I need to just maintain my professional decorum. And on one level, that's true. But because there's, people are not at their best at a hospital as much as they are in other places that they may go in life. So you get a lot of crap thrown at you, and since it's going in, it's coming out some way, and a lot of people unfortunately take it out on their coworkers in some way. And if you're talking about, what did they say, gossip?
Gossip at the hospital.
Is this a specific hospital? Should I know this hospital?
No.
Okay. I do a lot. I'm trying to think of how can I summarize it quickly, because I know that I have a tendency to say too many things. The biggest thing that I can say about gossip is this. First of all, don't be afraid of it. You know what I mean? Like, gossip doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's true and somebody's talking about something that I am actually doing. Well, I try not to do things that I'd be ashamed of. So if you're talking about, like poor Andrew, like if somebody was saying, poor Andrew is obsessed with Dan, like he's obsessed. I mean, he has, his picture all over his walls. He's all day long. He looks like he's writing, what do you call them? Prescriptions. But he's writing Dan or Andrew O'Connor over and over again, over and over again, over and over again. Like, if they said that about him, well, he's doing it, so he's not going to be upset about it. But if he's not doing it, well, then why would we be upset about it anyway? Because people who would believe it, people who would believe it tend not to be contributing to our personal, professional, or spiritual development. I would, however, say this. This is a tip that I think is very practical. When somebody is bringing something to me, because this is where it really gets aggravating for me. If Andrew were to come to me and say, so Dan, I heard that you blankety blank, they've been talking about you and the yada yada. Anytime somebody brings something about you to you, it is, especially if it's your boss, by the way. Like if our boss sits down and says, Andrew, I wanted to talk to you because some of your coworkers say that you are difficult to work with. Always say, who said that? Just before we go any further, who said that? Who are you talking about? What did they say, and who said it? And if people say, well, I don't want to get into it, then I'm not addressing this any further with you, because that would be engaging in idle gossip. What you're doing right now is you're gossiping with me about me. So even if you're my boss, I think you should know that, and I will not even address these accusations that you have just made unless I know who said it and exactly what was said, and I'd be happy if they were brought in here, because if we do not do that, you and I would be engaging in idle gossip. So instead, let's talk about Andrew. You know what I mean? No. So because there always is, as you know, Andrew, there always is going to be gossip, right? Like there's reason for me to talk about, like Olga. Olga's not here today. And some of us are a little too sensitive about it. Olga's not here. And so Andrew and I might say, hey, do you know where Olga left that in the other? And just like, I was just complaining about something. What was I saying? I was saying, oh, the footstool in the kitchen. I have restored with painstaking detail the kick stools. Those kick stools from the 70s that were like, it looks like an upside down bucket, and they were like white and black with a stripe in the middle, and you can kick it around and it makes a whole bunch of noise. But then when you step on it, it stays in place, and it's, it's about 1.5 feet tall. So I painstakingly restored one, and it goes in the kitchen. And every time I go into the kitchen, I store lots of stuff above the cabinets because I have a step stool. And so I said, Andrew, where's the step stool just now? He said, oh, I put it in the laundry room. Why would you do that? I was just in the kitchen and Olga's not even here to put it away. Well, Olga said it's supposed to go in the laundry room. So like if Olga walked in, she could have thought, making fun of me? like in Greece, what was, it sounds like a drag. So she might get all upset and think, you're gossiping. I was talking about a footstool, and like, who really cares anyway? My mother, my mom, she tends to talk a lot, and that's her gift and her curse. And so, I try to, if I hear my mother talking about me, Mom, I'm here, I can hear you, or you didn't hang up the phone, Mom, you still haven't hung it up. I wish I could hang up, I can't, Mom, you have to hang up. So I try to avoid the gossip that is about me, so that I just don't get aggravated. But some people get a little bit too like, hey, Andrew, I don't want to hear you talking about so-and-so. She's my friend. He's my friend. I'm not going to let, and then we insert ourselves and we'll guaranteed be gossiped about, because, human relationships are the name of the game in anywhere we work. And we're going to be talking about other people because that's part of human nature. I might need to work something through, an issue that I have about Olga with Andrew. So I'll talk to him about some stuff. If she heard it, she might consider it to be gossip. She doesn't even know that I just needed to talk to him about it because I needed to work through it. Now that I have, I'm better and I actually feel closer to you. So gossip's a really tricky thing. I would just try to, in your mind, say, I don't care, talk all you want. If it's about me, however, please let me interject and ask you who said it, when did they say it, or else let's not talk about it at all, especially if you're my boss, because it gets me out of a lot of meetings, because that's just idle gossip. So idle gossip is when people are talking about facts and figures, but they keep the facts about who said it, when it was said, and crucial details under the table. That's what real gossip is. You know what I mean? If people are bringing to you information that you should know about somebody, that's not necessarily gossip. I don't know. I tried to condense a 2-day anti-negativity and gossip and backstabbing seminar into 5 minutes, and that didn't work. So I apologize. But I hope I threw out something you could use.
Okay. So we got a lot of questions, but I think
we got a lot of questions. Give me one, Andrew. What time is it?
It's 6:30.
It's 6:30. So Andrew has to go because he thinks he's so great because he has dates. And oh, by the way, how old do you guys think Andrew is? Because I always have, geez, that they always stand up, Andrew. I always have women ask me, about Andrew, and I'm like, Miss.
29.
He's like
30. 30.
My little nephew Eamon.
26.
See, my little nephew Eamon, who, if you saw him, I've been with Eamon in other videos. He's a little boy.
35.
They went to 35. See, he's like 19.
I'm 19.
You're 19, right?
I am.
He's 19, right? I didn't look that grown up when I was 19. When I first saw Andrew, actually, because I was used to Andrew my whole life. He was my nephew Eamon's best friend. And so I went to the place where he was working as a maitre d'. And so I walked in, he's like, hi, Uncle Dan, or hi, Dan. He said, hi, Dan. And I was like, I'm not in the mood tonight. And so I totally ignored him. And he said 3 times, Dan, hi, Dan. And I was like, dude, I'm not. So I was just like, I do not see you, I'm ignoring you. And then he said something about Uncle Dan, right? And I'm like, holy crap, who are you? And he said, he's one of those who went through a growth spurt. I'm still waiting for mine. That's how I've maintained my youthful glow. But yeah, Andrew's 19, so cool it. Cool it, ladies. But he has a hot date tonight, so he thinks he's so great. And he's deserting all of us.
So I'll give you one last question before I go. See you, everybody. How do you practice forgiveness?
Oh, God.
I know you have a lot to say on that, so.
You have to stay you're suffering with me. Here's how I practice forgiveness. Truthfully. I do it a lot. And in little increments. Is that what I would say? Andrew, come back here. Come back here. Because Andrew, he needs a lot of forgiving,
Yeah.
I mean, just today alone, I can think of 5 times where I've said, oh, please forgive, help me be forgiving. But, I'm joking. But when I'm serious when I say, I'm thinking of someone right now, not Andrew.
Who needs forgiving?
Who I need to forgive a lot. And I do it, I actually literally practice forgiving with him because I'll tell you why. Forgiveness is just like anything else. It's just like learning how to love somebody. It's like learning how to care for somebody. You know how if you've been in a loving relationship, somebody said, by the way, one of my brother's lifelong childhood friends, when he found out that my father died, his comment on his Facebook page was, "Of course I remember your father. That's when I learned the first time your father came over to our house and we were sleeping over there. They were like neighbor kids where we'd have sleepovers. He said, your father came over to say goodnight to you guys, and that's the first time I learned that a father would say, I love you to his sons. And he said that it changed his whole life, and I'm sure he now says, I love you to his sons. Because he was like, what the hell, who's that creep coming in here and saying, I love you to the O'Connor boys? And it turned out to be our father. And he's like, no. So that said, my father was very, 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 very loving, and helped teach us how to love other people. And I had a lot of practice in loving relationships. So I could see how it went. And I knew, there's a reason why I'm telling you all of this. I was more conscious, I think, than some of the people. I was fortunate enough to be conscious about making loving decisions as opposed to loveless decisions, more than, let's say, the person who made this comment. And so the reason I can easily express love to people, that's one of the things people will tell me, is that they find it easy to be loved by me because I just love them anyway. That's because I practice it a lot. It's just something I always did, even when it's tough. Like my mother. My mother is the best at forgiveness because she's been crucified a lot. She had to forgive a lot of people for the things that they said, or she would hold that in her heart. And my mother's the type of person where the moment, like you could be having a fight, she could find out how you just betrayed her, how you just stole from her, how you bore false witness on her. And if you say, I want you to know I apologize, I feel terrible, I will never do it again, and I'm begging you to forgive me. She would stop in mid-sentence and be like, all right, I will never mention it again. And she wouldn't, that's it, it's done with her. And so I had that lesson my whole life from her, and she had to forgive me for some really heavy stuff. So the reason I say that is because when I'm with people who I need to forgive a lot, I'll use any opportunity to be like, okay. And then when I say I practice forgiving, when you forgive somebody, you just hold on. It's done. Like if I say to Andrew, if Andrew, keeps, what do you keep doing? Keeps taking my phone chargers, and then I look for them for a YouTube video, and I don't have a phone that's charged, and I can't charge it when he leaves because I have no phone chargers anymore. I just keep buying them. Why would I actually have them? So let's say that Andrew were to say, Dan. See if he says it. No, Andrew, I will not accept your marriage proposal. So even though it's on YouTube, I apologize to the world. I'm telling you no.
Will you forgive me, friend of all the 130 people that's already
Yes, Andrew, I will. So now, once, if I were to say to Andrew, if he were to say to me, oh, Dan, I apologize. And I were to say, all right, thank you, I accept your apology, whatever. You have to really do it. So whether it's a little thing like, oh, I apologize, did I eat all of your chips again, or they don't say it. You know what I mean? If somebody doesn't ask for forgiveness, that's sometimes more difficult, to forgive. If you keep practicing little by little by little by little, I'm going to forgive you for that. And what that means is I'm forgiving you in my heart, and I'm letting it go, and I'm putting it in the past. What that does is, just like being more loving, or being more caring, or being more selfless, or giving, all of a sudden, even though it's not done in a selfish way, you start to reap the benefit and be like, now I understand what forgiveness is all about. Because forgiveness is the only thing, according to the English language, the word was invented because when you give something, that word means you have an expectation for a return on anything you give. You know what I mean? Just about anything you're giving, we think of, we want a return from. And the word to give implies I kind of have an expectation that when I'm giving you something, there's a quid pro quo involved. The only word that means I'm going to give without expectations and from an endless fountain that will never dry up. It's not even mine to give, but I can keep giving it forever and don't expect anything in return. That's forgiveness. You're giving love in a way that you don't expect any back, and you can never you can never run out of it. And so when you start to do it more and more, you start to realize what that really means and be like, oh my God, that is what I'm doing. I'm flowing. I'm love flow. And I mean, like I'm a faucet of love. I'm a love faucet. We'll have to think of a fountain. A fountain.
A love stream.
A love stream. No, that's a different thing. But to answer your question, as you know, I like to take I like to make a short story long. If you just practice on, like if there's somebody that you're holding in your heart that you cannot forgive, practice forgiving the people that are easy to forgive. The people that bump into you that you don't even know and say, oh, excuse me. And you could say, that's okay, and let it go. You start off with little things. You keep doing it more and more, little by little. And when your dogs eat something that they shouldn't eat, saying, oh, Mags, that's just a pair of, original Valentino sunglasses, but you're Maggie, so the more you do that, the easier it becomes. And it's what do you call it, Andrew? It's
Cycle.
Not a cycle. It compounds. It's a compounding process where all of a sudden you have so much forgiveness floating through you that you can do it more easily and in more difficult situations because you've practiced. Just like when you see people being loving and when they practice being jerks, like you see people who spend their whole life practicing being selfish. For whatever reason they feel they need to do that, need to, go around getting what's theirs, or they feel as though they might, be without. So they practice and get better at it. Forgive them. And the more you forgive, if you ever need some practice forgiving, call up Andrew. I will post his number. It's 235-SEEK. And just befriend him, and you will find lessons in forgiveness immediately. But I would also, as on a serious note, so I would practice on a day-to-day basis, little steps all the time, and you start to do it. It's kind of like dancing. You do it more and more and more and more till it's incorporated. And I would also read the stories of people who were able to forgive, like Elizabeth Smart, who was kidnapped and made to bear her captor's baby. And the stories of the survivors of Auschwitz, and talk to the people in your life. I can't believe when I started having to forgive people for big honking things, I would look around, I was in misery, and I would look around and think, how can these people walk around like they're normal? And like, I know that now that I'm a little bit older, I know that all of you have had these things happen to you, and how can you manage to get out of bed and walk around and not be just, gunning people down in the streets? I get it. How can you not do that? Because everybody practices forgiveness in their own way. Ask them, how can you make it through the day? How did you forgive that person in your heart? And you will be inspired, and you will find it easier when you focus on it and practice it. And I apologize for these long answers. I'm going to read the rest of your questions and respond to them because I'm feeling frisky, and I haven't done any videos for too long. Oh, I have, by the way, 7 hours of videos, because Andrew was like, Dan, I need more videos. Dan, I'm obsessed with you. Dan, you're all I like to watch on TV. My whole world revolves around you. And so can I please, just watch more of you? So I did all of these videos for him, and we're chopping them up now, and we're putting them on YouTube. So starting Monday?
Yeah, Monday.
If Andrew comes to work, we will have all sorts of scheduled videos, and we'll be doing live videos, every Tuesday, Thursday?
Tuesday and Thursday.
Tuesday and Thursday live?
2 for 1.
Sure. And Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, regular scheduled videos. I will go through your questions as I have not done in the past, and I apologize, and answer them. So
that means Andrew will go through.
Andrew will help. He will help in the organizational aspect of it. Thank you. I'm very grateful for everybody that you would take the time to be here today and celebrate our return to the land of the living, and some of us to the land of the stylish and handsome. So I will see you all. For everybody here at Dan O'Connor Training, this is Dan O'Connor, and Andrew and Maggie and Buddy will be back the next time. So we're signing off. By the way, Vanessa, it was great to see you. If you're Vanessa Louison. Hope to see more. Bye. I don't know how to turn this off. I hope I don't say anything profane before Andrew turns it off. Andrew, stop fingering the phone. Stop it. Click